My landlord knocked on my door one afternoon asking if everything was okay. He looked uncomfortable. He told me he got a call from a woman claiming to be my mother. She said I had been screaming threats through the walls and that I was unsafe to live alone. I was in bed that entire night, lights off, Nest camera on. I pulled up the footage, clipped the timestamps, and emailed it to my landlord. He apologized and said he'd add the footage to my tenant file. I saved a copy for myself too. 2 days later, I called my mother. I asked her directly if she called my landlord. She paused and said, "You always twist things, Marissa. That's part of your condition." I didn't respond. The recorder on my phone picked up every word. That was the first real piece of evidence. After that, I stopped replying to messages from my family. I didn't block them, not yet, but I left every message on read and added each one to my document log. I named the folder events, and every screenshot was timestamped and labeled. I wanted to know how far the damage had gone. I called one of my more distant cousins under the excuse of catching up. I casually mentioned something about getting back on my feet, and she responded with, "Wait, weren't you hospitalized or something?" I kept my voice even and said I didn't know where that came from. She said she must have misheard and changed the subject. I saved that conversation too. James ended things the following week. He said he couldn't handle the constant tension, and that my family had real concerns he could no longer ignore. I asked him to return the spare key to my apartment and then blocked him on everything. Once that was done, I changed all my passwords, email, bank, everything. I also removed anyone connected to my family from all my social media platforms. I knew my mother had hacked into my Google Drive months ago. She once made a comment referencing something I'd never shared out loud. So I created a fake Google Doc titled Breakdown Journal. I filled it with made-up entries, crying fits, imagined suicidal thoughts, hallucinations. It was all fake, but it sounded real enough to someone who wanted it to be true. I changed the privacy settings to anyone with the link and emailed it to myself, knowing it would show up in her access history. 4 days later, my aunt called me out of the blue. I didn't answer, but her voicemail started with, "Hey sweetheart, I heard what you've been going through. I just want you to know that we love you." She referenced what happened last weekend and told me not to do anything drastic. There had been no weekend incident. I saved the voicemail, timestamped it, and added it to the folder. At this point, I had enough to meet with a lawyer. I printed everything, emails, texts, voicemails, the Nest Cam video, the fake journal trap, the therapist letters. The folder was 3 inches thick. I walked into the lawyer's office and laid it all out. He looked through it silently, reading and skimming as he organized the pages. After half an hour, he looked up and said, "You're not just documenting harassment. This is defamation. If they've cost you job opportunities, and you can prove it, you have a case." He advised we start by sending a cease and desist letter to my parents and my older brother. Something formal and serious. Not as a scare tactic, but as a warning shot. A way to make it clear that if they didn't stop, the next step would be court. That night I went home and added one more document to the folder. A short note with today's date, clipped to the front. This is how you dismantle a lie. The cease and desist letters went out on a Wednesday morning. One to my mother, one to my father, and one to my older brother. Each envelope carried a direct legal warning. Stop the defamation, or we pursue legal action. My lawyer sent them via registered mail, so there'd be no denying they received it. 2 days later, I got a voicemail from my father. He didn't mention the letter. He just asked me to stop acting out and claimed they never said anything like that. He ended with, "We're still your parents. Try to remember that." I saved the message, labeled it, and forwarded it to my lawyer. I wanted to test something next. Not out of curiosity, but strategy. I created a private Reddit